I hate this. That's what I mean. Look at this. Welcome back. And I hate something. Okay, today I want to share with you something that I really, really hate. I absolutely hate this. I hate the shattered planes, okay? I absolutely hate the shattered planes in the Stormlight Archive. This is the worst thing that ever happened in this entire story. The main reason why this is a problem in my eyes, essentially, is that on a fundamental level, so much of the story in book 1 and book 2 and even the further books, from what I've heard, essentially hinge desperately on this. They hinge on the shattered planes. They hinge on a lot of the conflict hinges on the bridgemen. Essentially the bridgemen going through what they go through, because so much of the story is dedicated to that. This is where they bring the protagonist. You see here the shattered planes. It's really, really depressing, and it sucks. And knowing that all of this exists, knowing that this world is this large and this beautiful and this well crafted, to spend the entirety of the first book just here and just in few other locations and not even explore them in that much depth is absolutely sad in my eyes. So today I'm gonna rant about two things that I absolutely abhor about The Way of Kings. I have never really negatively spoken about The Way of Kings. That's because I like it. I like the Stormlight Archive. I love it. I think it's great. But I'm gonna talk shit about it today. Brandon Sanderson is awful. Okay, I'm gonna talk about why. So first of all, I hate this region. So I'm going to talk about two reasons because I hate this region. Okay? First of all is the bridgemen. The huge chunk of page count dedicated to the bridgemen in the story is nice. It's fun, right? You come along with these underdogs and, it's really satisfying. Brandon Sanderson knows how to tell a satisfying story. No one is going to argue that the bridgemen are not fan favorite. Okay, I love them, you love them, everybody loves them. And however, as a mechanical engineer, I cannot help but notice how awful of an engineering this is. First of all, let's talk about what the bridgemen are. Do you know what the bridgemen are? The bridgemen are actually what you would call the engineering corps, the engineering corps, right? So in an army, you have a group of people that are responsible for building the bridges and the machinery and the garrisons and the military bases. And these people are essentially the engineers within the army. Do you know what is something you don't do? Do you know something that you absolutely cannot do? You can never put the engineering corps in danger. Do you know why that is the case? Because engineers are difficult to come by, especially skilled engineers who know how to build a bridge in the middle of a battlefield, who know how to get you to the other side of that river. And then you put them in danger and they die. Therefore, this is awful. This is not how engineering corps are treated in the real world. Sadeas, by the way, is supposed to be depicted as a maniacal individual that is really cunning and Machiavellian. Yeah, but this is not something even the most brutal barbarians have ever done. The most Machiavellian genocidal bastards throughout history. For example, Caesar. Caesar was a genocidal rat who killed hundreds of thousands of people, but he never put his engineers in danger. The engineering corps must never be in danger. But let's talk about this. I hate the bridges. I really do. Because with very minimal adjustments, you could reduce the casualties by 90+%. First of all, what is this? What is this? This guy's head, for example, is sticking out. By the way, this is described in the story, right? I remember in the particular story where this is, I don't exactly remember where, but this does happen in the story where you have the first people at the front dying before everyone else. So for example, in the story you have here, this is about Kaladin. He helped lift the bridge into the air. So he's helping lift the bridge into the air. The other men had pads on the shoulders. Okay, here. Kaladin grunted as the crew broke into a jog. So basically what's happening here is that they are moving along the bridge for the first time, right? He couldn't see where he was going. He couldn't see where he was going. Exhibit number 1. So, you could really improve the shielding on this, right? So for example, this particular slope, you could have it extend a little higher, exactly. You can have essentially up to here, the tip would extend up to here. This slope would be a lot further, or you can have more trusses. First of all, how does this even stand? This is not an effective truss structure. This is not an effective truss structure. You need to have another line here, 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 another line here. So this will not be able to stand on its own to begin with if you just left it on the ground, especially if you step on it. It's not really going to survive the stress. But also, you can extend this further. You can put this individual back here, yes. And what you can do is you can carry these you see, this is where the bridgemen are. This is where the bridgemen are. So you can have a shield here like this, and you can try to essentially carry it slits where they can have a direct line of sight, which would allow them to see what's happening in front of them. This image is not exactly the correct bridge, but you can improve this design effectively by simply just adding slight shielding here. You know, this is a very delicate operation. You need people to get it right. So exhibit number 2 is that you are putting these bridgemen in danger, which is very stupid. And the reason why it's very stupid is because it takes a lot of skill in the hectic battle and a lot of experience to lay this properly. So you need to make sure that the individuals who are doing it are safe. So how about, because it's the most cost effective, because you might say it's more cost effective to just dump them and let them die. But no, it's actually less cost effective to do that. It's more cost effective to actually have the experienced bridgemen, because you can lose the battle. So give them armor. Give them effective armor, proper armor. You don't want to just have slight bits of armor. You want to have complete set of armor that's really efficient and good at absorbing arrows. So this is another improvement that you can make easily, and you can save costs. So both of them have the same thing in common, which is something that happens in the real world, which is you never put the engineering corps in danger. Remember, any general who does that does not have a military, because engineers are responsible for the logistics. They effectively make sure everything else is feasible. This guy that's dying right here should not be dying. This shouldn't even be the case. But you know what's the worst part? Sadeas is depicted as a very successful Machiavellian individual, right? But he is profoundly brain dead. When Kaladin comes up with this strategy, so you can have a normal bridge going on like this, but you can have another bridge, you can go crisscrossing or sidewalks, right? First of all, you don't have to actually do the sidewalking. You can simply just walk directly with this up here, with this extended at 45 degrees as it is, like this. Or actually this is more like 30 degrees, but whatever it is, you could just directly walk. You could do the most efficient path, and then you could switch sides and ultimately lay the bridge. Yes. Okay, so that's something you could do. When Kaladin does this, he gets punished for it. Sadeas is brain dead. He would never survive. He would never survive, and he would never be as successful as he is depicted. And here you can see basically in chapter 34, Storm Wall, you can see bridgemen aren't supposed to survive. Yeah, they're supposed to survive. Anyway, Kaladin's mind felt fuzzy. He knew that he hurt, but other than that, he floated. As if his head were detached from his body and bouncing off the walls and ceilings. You can see they got better at carrying the bridge on its side, but not much better. Kaladin watched Bridge 4 pass, moving awkwardly, maneuvering the bridge at their sides. Fortunately, there were plenty of handles on the bridge's underside. But of course, Other bridges, copy this strategy, but they don't practice. And since he had run out in front, many other bridgemen had gotten a good view of how he had used the bridge as a shield that had led them to emulate Bridge 4. Each of the crews had ended up running at different speeds, and the Alethi archers hadn't known where to focus their volleys to soften the Parshendi for the bridge landing. Stormfather, of course, Sadeas this battle. There would be repercussions. This should have been done long time ago. Never mind. The main reason why this is a problem in my eyes, essentially, is that on a fundamental level, so much of the story in book 1 and book 2 and even the further books, from what I've heard, essentially hinge desperately on this. They hinge on the shattered plains. They hinge on a lot of the conflict hinges on the bridgemen. Essentially the bridgemen going through what they go through, because so much of the story is dedicated to that. And I think that ultimately the way the whole thing is structured is really not that good. But you know what's even worse? You don't even need humans to do this. Basically, you don't have to have the people pulling these bridges. You can have these beasts right here. You see these? These are called chulls. You can use them to pull stuff, right? You can use them, as you can see in here, you can use them to pull stuff. And you know who does that? Dalinar does that. Okay? Dalinar does that. Toward the end of the story, Dalinar Kholin, he always arrived late. Perhaps he blamed his slow, chal-pulled bridges. Very convenient, his men often had the luxury of crossing without archery fire. Sadeas and Dalinar won more battles this way. They won more battles this way. You didn't have to use humans. You know why it's really a bad move? It's a bad move because we know that very quickly after this, Sadeas betrays Dalinar, and we know that ultimately Dalinar is rescued by the bridgemen. Dalinar is rescued by the bridgemen when Sadeas betrays him and leaves him to die on this plateau assault. So, essentially, Sadeas is a moron. I hate this entire place. I hate the Shattered Plains. I really think that there's so much to the world that the story could have done. We spent so many hundreds of pages. So many hundreds of pages. It's ridiculous. But you create mutinies that will result in your own men turning on you. So, my main opposition here is that this entire place, Shattered Plains, it sucks. The story should not have spent as much time as it did there. It's annoying. It bothers me a lot. And the bridgemen should not exist as they exist in the story. Much of the story is contingent. And in fact, much of the emotional satisfaction that is drawn from this story is contingent on this. It is contingent on these stupid ways that Sadeas organizes things. Without Sadeas' stupidity, it would not even be. And I think it's even a mischaracterization of Sadeas himself, because ultimately, he's supposed to be a cunning individual. He's supposed to be a Machiavellian beast. But a Machiavellian beast does not kill the engineering corps of his war. But you know why I hate the Shattered Plains as well? The second reason I hate the Shattered Plains is the War Pact. Okay? It's the War Pact. I really hate it. The Vengeance Pact should not exist. The reason why the Vengeance Pact exists is because the king of the Alethkar was assassinated by the Parshendi. And why did the Parshendi assassinate Gavalan, in the prologue? Well, and why claim responsibility? Okay? So this is really very important. You can even go back. Here you can see, man, this awesome name. I can't say it very well. Truthless of Shinova wore white on the day he was to kill a king. The white clothing was a Parshendi tradition, foreign to him, but he did as his masters required and did not ask for an explanation. So why would the Parshendi kill him? And they did it despite knowing that this would spark a war with the Alethkar. The Parshendi ordered the assassination, however, because They feared the consequences of his actions, Gavala, because he had discovered methods that would potentially bring back the ancient gods of the Parshendi, the fused. First of all, the Parshendi know about these ancient gods from 5,000, 4,000, 5,000 years ago. Is a ridiculous time frame, by the way, to have cohesion and consistency. Fantasy stories have this terrible tradition of behaving in this manner, where songs from that long can effectively and sufficiently guide people living today to take action in order to convey valuable information. This doesn't happen. Languages change. Languages change faster than you would think. They change within our lifetime. Nowadays you have brain rot terminology. Okay, what the sigma is essentially what the heck, but it's just for brain dead Gen Z's children, right? I'm watching too much TikTok, but I hope you understand. Gooning and edging and all of those different terminologies change. Language is changing in front of your eyes. Imagine 5,000 years. You wouldn't even have the same grammatical structure. And this is the problem. The first reason is the Parshendi are acting on this tradition. Essentially, the Parshendi have this tradition of songs and hymns, but apparently they can last for thousands of years, even though languages don't, and change so much that no use can be drawn, no possible link. Even religions are not immune to this. I am a Muslim, right? And we Muslims are very proud that, our religion is immutable. But the fact that Sunnis exist, Shias exist, and the fact that so many different people pray so many different ways, ultimately it tells you that this is not true. It's just it's like the notion of American democracy. Yes, it's just a fallacy. We just say that because it feels nice. Anyways, the other thing is that I really don't like the Parshendi. Could you do this in a better way? That's what I want to ask. So first of all, the war is dumb because it is contingent on the Parshendi assassinating Gavala, and that is because there is these ancient gods that he will bring about, and he found ways to do it. Not really. They wouldn't have that information from songs and traditions. Okay. But the second thing is, could the Parshendi have done this in a different way? Assuming that the songs work, yes, you can do this in a more diplomatic manner. Because I am assuming that if there is a way for him to bring those ancient gods, you could sabotage the way and permanently shut down that particular strategy instead of starting a war with the goddamn Alethi. With an entire, kingdom with vast resources. And that's the other thing. Yes. So much of the page count is spent ultimately with the bridgemen. And I think that entire conflict is really just not well structured. It's not well, not structured. It's well structured for what it is, but it's not a strong, it's really not something that would happen. And if it were to happen, Sadeas would have never made it to that point in his life. He would be gone far before that. He would be dead far before that point, yeah? Because he would be too dumb to really make it up to that point. Or to make it to any positions of power, right? Competency is key. At least you have to have a basic level of competency. When you see an engineer, you don't put a bullet in their head. You give them a wage and nice food, and you put them behind the fire line. Anyways, the other thing is, so the bridgemen and the conflict and the way that entire conflict is structured, and the chapters and chapters and chapters. You can see here, I think it's 75. So many chapters are dedicated to this 75 chapters. You have at least 20 chapters dedicated to just the bridgemen. That is not good. The other thing is the entire conflict is contingent on the Parshendi. This is a thin justification. So the two things that come out of this the most, which is the bridgemen and the entire war itself, all the plateau assaults and the conflicts and so on and so forth. I really think it's just thin. I think the entire conflict is just thin. Yes, it's very thin. And anyways, why don't we spend more time with Seth here? Seth Samson Volano, whatever this guy's awesome name is. I mean, look at him. Look at this guy, man. He looks glorious. He looks amazing. He looks fantastic. Why not just have more of this guy? Yeah. So my conflict with this story is that I really hate the Shattered Plains. And I don't hate the Shattered Plains because I hate the Bridgeman. And I don't hate it because I think reading about the conflict is boring. No. I really don't think that is the case. However, I do believe deep down that the Shattered Plains essentially squash any potential for the story to have explored all of these different worlds, all of these different locations, all of these different cultures, in any meaningful way, in any deep way. Yes, this world feels shallow, but it's so vast and so broad. It feels like an infinite shallow ocean. An infinite shallow ocean. Yes, that's the best way I can put it. So, anyways, it's really not because I hate the entire story. I love the Breachmen. I mean, everybody loves them anyways. I'm not even sure why I said that. Anyways, I will leave it at this point. I've said enough. Anyhow, I hope that you enjoyed this. Have a nice day. Bye-bye.